Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amrutam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Yesterday we gave an exhaustive introduction using Shankara's Bhashya for this Upanishad. And as I said, Shankara starts with Atma iti eva upasita because tadeva etasmin sarvasmin padaniyam atma tattvam. But everything that I see in terms of all the objects in the world are nothing but padaniyam, is only padam. Padam means the words. Because according to scriptures, vacharambanam vikaro namadheyam, all things is nothing but pure existence, and existence itself is expressing in different names and forms, just as the gold itself is expressing in different names and forms. Yada saumya ekena lohamanina sarvam lohamayam vijnata. So all that from the Upanishadic statement, and that Shankara itself starts. And you saw yesterday what is the statement of Yajnavalkya to Maitreyi. Says, Idam sarvam yadayamatma. This entire universe, that so idam sarvam, sarvam idam means entire, which includes everything that I see, I hear, I touch, I so all the things that I perceive through the five sense organs. So idam sarvam is idam yat ayam atma, is nothing but the self that you are. Therefore Shankara starts with atma iti eva upasita, because everything etasmin sarvasmin is atma tatmameva. So everything that I see is nothing but the essence, is self that I am. Says, how can that be? Until then, he says it was Brahman. Brahman is everything. Now the whole Upanishad is turning in different way. So starting from Atma, say Atma is everything. So that's why you can see this is the essence of all Advaitic philosophy is packed in this Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, that too in the Maitreyi Brahmana. So yesterday we gave into exhaustive analysis and the essence of all Vedanta. Once you understand it, you can appreciate any book now. Now what was that? The all-pervading consciousness is everywhere, because that's the statement of the scripture. Prajnanam Brahma. That's the Mahavakya. That means consciousness is Brahman. Brahman is infinite. So consciousness itself is infinite. So in fact that is provided in a converse statement. You know, I keep telling in terms of there's a direct statement and a converse statement. Converse statement makes it is a necessary and sufficient. For those who are a little bit mathematical oriented, you can see what converse statement means. So when I say the sugar is sweet is necessary. If it looks like a sugar but it's not sweet, no, it's not sugar. So sugar is sweet. Sweetness is a necessity, but it's not sufficient. Sufficient means you have to converse you. Sweet is sugar. Then it's a converse statement. So converse statement means it is necessary and sufficient. If it is sweet, it has to be only sugar. It cannot be anything else. But you can have equal and all those things now, right? All equal and splendor and all those things are sweet, but they are not sugar. So therefore, it's not sufficient qualification. So converse statement is a very rigorous statement. So when say Krishna, the scripture says Brahman is conscious, it doesn't say Brahman is conscious and I am also conscious. It doesn't say no. Consciousness is Brahman. So wherever there is a consciousness, it is nothing but Brahman. So that is very rigorous statement in which the Upanishad gives, and I hope you are all conscious. That means you are Brahman automatically, because this scripture declares. If you have consciousness anywhere, it cannot but be Brahman. Oh, but I am finite. That's your problem. You think you are finite, but you are not really finite. When you say I am consciousness, then, or I am conscious, because consciousness can have limitations. You say, oh, I am consciousness and he is consciousness. You are dividing consciousness. Consciousness can be indivisible. It cannot be. So what exactly is the problem? And that's why we need to have a clear understanding, because we get easily confused, particularly when you meet Dvaitins, he will try to confuse you very easily. So what exactly? Consciousness is all pervading. There cannot be any limitations for that. And that's Brahman. It is Ekam Eva Advitiyam. That is one without a second, means there cannot be any difference of any kind in that. And that's what the scripture was telling you also. If you see that I am a Brahman or I am a Kshatriya, you're any difference, it makes you problem itself. Therefore, consciousness, pure consciousness is all pervading, and it doesn't have to realize anything also. What is there to realize? Because only when it's confused, it has to realize that I'm confused. But it's all pervading, so there's no confusion in the consciousness, because there cannot be any divisions of any kind. So, consciousness point, there is no jnani or ajnani. There is no jnanam also. There is no self-realization also. So, Brahman point, nothing of anything. No word can reach there. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. So, scriptures are so precise in defining it. Na vaggachati na manaha. Then what is all this for? That is true. What is all this for? It's only for those who are confused. That's a problem. So where is the confusion occurring? The one who has a confusion, he has. So who realizes here? The one who is asking the question. Because he thinks he needs to realize. If he thinks he has already realized, he won't ask that question. Right? So all these things have to be crystal clear in our mind. Then only it's so clear, clean. Knowledge is so clean, because it's very pure science. And therefore, what exactly is the problem? Problem is all-pervading consciousness is all-pervading. There is nothing of, no things can be thought. You cannot even talk about as Advaita also there, because no words can reach. That's what Gaudapada says in the Gaudapada Karika, Mandukya Karika. Even the words of Advaita, this, that, consciousness, even it is Sattva, it is Chitta, Ananda, all those things, nothing of that. Because no words can be used. I am, period, that's it. So one sage went, one student went and said, asking his teacher, "Sir, please teach me. I want to know." The sage kept quiet. He kept repeating and repeating, same question. "Please teach me, I want to know." He said, "I am teaching, but you are not listening." Why? But what is there I can teach about what? That is going to, Yajnavalkya is going to tell in the 14th sloka about it. In the 14th mantra before we leave, that's exactly what he's going to say. But we can't learn, people say, silence is a teacher, all you have to be silence. It's not the silence. If I can learn from silence, I would have learned long time ago. Atma is a teacher. Atma can never teach. Akartaham, bhoktaham, hamevaham avyeya. I am neither a doer nor an enjoyer. How can he teach also? Atma is also not knower. Then what is this knowledge? Who knows? What is all this has to be crystal clear. Now, I want to be, we went through all that, but this, if we understand this clearly, no further questions will even arise. Number one, all-pervading consciousness is all eternally present. No divisions of any kind. Then, wherever there is a subtle body, that consciousness gets reflected there. It's not that consciousness wants reflected. I say, I have nothing to do with it. So when I say, put a bucket of water and there is water there and the sun is reflecting there, so why are you sun? Why are you getting reflected? Say, I have nothing to do. You put a water and you see, that's my nature is to reflect wherever it is. So, from the point of consciousness, there are no problems of any kind. No Jiva, no Brahman, no Ishvara, no world also, no creation even. Because infinite cannot undergo any modification. That's what is, the Gaudapada calls it Ajatyavada. If you really look, there is no creation even. I am seeing it, that's your problem. That's why we are here. Because you are seeing it, you will say this is not real, we have to teach. So the question from the point of pure consciousness is all pervading, but wherever there is a subtle body, that subtle body reflects the light of consciousness, because just like if you put a mirror and there is a light everywhere, mirror reflects. Why are you reflecting? Hey, that's my nature. That's what subtle body will say. So wherever there is a subtle body, reflection cannot be avoided. And from the one point, I am the light of consciousness, I am everywhere. So light is always there, and wherever there is subtle body, reflection also there. So the reflected consciousness is called Chidabhasa. So word should be clear, because this comes in this Upanishad, in this statement. Yajnavalkya is going to tell what is that the Upahita Chaitanyam, Upadhisahita Chaitanyam, called essentially Chidabhasa, is going to be talked about. And this is also one of the references for it. So that Chidabhasa, when it reflects the consciousness, it enlivens the consciousness as though it acts as though it is conscious entity. Just as the moon is not luminous body, but when the sunlight falls on it, it acts as though it is luminous body. Right? It's clear. Remember, moon and the mind are related. So, in the same way, wherever there is a subtle body, it reflects the consciousness. So, what is the problem? There is no problem. But the problem comes, this reflected mind, where its consciousness reflecting, wants to say, I am the one who is self-luminous. You follow? As though a moon is saying that I am a luminous body. Without knowing, it is only sunlight that is relieved. Now when you say, I am conscious and he is conscious, who is saying that? The mind saying, I am a conscious, which is borrowed consciousness from the consciousness which is getting reflected only. So a reflected consciousness, when it's reflected, the mind is the one which is saying that I am a jiva and he is another jiva and this is the world, none I had to deal, she is my wife. All those relations, everything comes into picture. All samsara comes into picture. All that is at the level of reflected consciousness. Nothing to do with the pure consciousness. So this has to be clear. And who has the ajnanam? Who has the ignorance? Consciousness doesn't have ignorance. Pure consciousness. Ignorance is this reflected consciousness, the mind, looking at itself, says, I am this mind, because I am a shining body, I am conscious entity. The only mind, because when you are deep sleep state, you won't say I am a conscious entity. If you are saying that, means you are not slept. So it is the mind that says I am this conscious mind entity, because the mind has the ignorance. Follow now? It is the mind that has the ignorance, and it's the mind that makes all the notions and assumptions about itself and about everybody. And mind, which includes intellect, mind is a general term, mind is antakaranam, says that involves the intellect, mind, all that jnanendriyas, all that is involved in the subtle body, including is in that. Now where is the problem? Who has to get educated now? It is the mind that requires education. Mind itself is inert. So I means pure consciousness is getting reflected as Chidabhasa, making the mind active, and that active mind is making all the assumptions and the problems. When the mind is not there, there are no problems. That's what happens in the deep sleep state. When the mind is folded, everybody is happy. So all the problems comes only as soon as the mind comes. So it is the mind that has ajnanam, and it's the mind that needs jnanam. And what is that jnanam? That mind needs to know that I am not the mind. It's a very peculiar statement. What is that? The light that is coming to me, the mind has to know that the consciousness that is coming to me is only a reflected consciousness, but the consciousness is only the original light that is only reflected here. Mind is only an instrument. I, correct understanding is, I, using the mind, has to know that I am not the mind. And even to say that I am not the mind, I need the mind. Follow? You follow the problem. Because without the mind, I cannot even say anything. I cannot see even ignorance also. In the deep sleep state, I don't know that I don't know also. I don't know, of course, but I don't know that I don't know, because the mind has to be there to know that I don't know. So to know I know and to know I don't know, I need a mind to say it. But the mind itself is folded in the deep sleep state. All I can say only after getting up from the sleep and say, I slept very well, but I don't know where I was, no time, no space, nothing else, no problems. I was happy. Only you complain when you have problems, right? So if you don't get sleep, you will complain. But what was there in the deep sleep state? That pure consciousness is still there all the time, because it never disappears. I, the Sakshi, what you call Sakshi, the witnessing consciousness, is all the time there. Now what should I do to recognize I am that Sakshi? Because I am the light of consciousness only getting reflected here. So even the jnanam that I say I am a jnani involves what? It is using the mind, getting reflected, and recognize that the light that is coming, or the consciousness that is coming, is that pure consciousness that I am. That is the knowledge that occurs in the mind only. Follow now the whole concept of where the confusions are and where the problems are. All understanding is, we try to look at from the pure consciousness. He doesn't have any problem. Now where exactly now centered this ajnanam, this ignorance, because yesterday we got asked what is avidya, maya, and all the questions came. So who has the locus? What is the locus of avidya? That's one of the philosophical questions of all the acharyas. Bhagavan Ramanuja in his Sri Bhashya on the Brahma Sutras, he talks about the 7 untenables against the Advaita philosophy. Major criticism of the whole Advaita philosophy of avidya of Advaita philosophy. Very interesting to read it also. And when you read it, you get so convinced, just how can Advaita be right? that is the power of those arguments also. And one of the arguments is the anyonya ashraya. Anyonya means it's if you say Jiva has ignorance, because Jiva has ignorance, I am ignorant. So if you say Jiva is ignorant, then according to Advaita, Jiva itself is created due to ignorance only. So ignorance was before Jiva, or Jiva came, ignorance came after Jiva came. If you say ignorance was there before, then Jiva was not there. It cannot be Jiva cannot be locus. But if you say Jiva has the ignorance, that means Jiva is the locus for ignorance, that means ignorance was not there before, then how is Jiva created? You follow the problem of called anyonya ashraya, mutual interdependent logic. It's like if I have a lot of money, I need a lot of money, I'll ask you, so please give me some money. Say, I don't have it. So suppose I give it to you and you give me back that loan. So I give the money to you and then you give me back as a loan, same money that I gave you. That is called essentially mutual circulation of the same problem. And that's the criticism. So who has the locus, who has the ignorance? We say the Brahman has the ignorance, and no philosopher will like that. How can Brahman has ignorance? Because Brahman, anything in this world, only Brahman can be locus, because Brahman being infinite, there cannot be anything other than Brahman. So everything has to be in locus only at the Brahman. At the same time, we also say, without washing our mouth, according to Swami Chinmayanji, without washing ourselves, Brahman cannot have anything. One side we say Brahman is a locus. At the same time, Brahman is not, doesn't have anything. Say, you are contradicting yourself? No. If you say it is contradiction, but if I say it's not contradiction. That's our logic. Why? We are Advaitins, you are Advaitin. Why it's not a contradiction? Because we are looking at ontologically, from the reality point, Brahman is at a higher level of consciousness, higher state, and we are only looking at a vyavaharika satyam. Ignorance is also vyavaharika satyam. So just as gold and the ring, gold is at a higher order of reality compared to the ring. You see the order of reality there. One is the cause, another is the effect. So cause itself doesn't undergo any modification, yet there is a modification. This is called this is a transformationless transformation. A very beautiful description of Vedanta. You can see how perfect it is. Because in a science, you know, there are reversible transformations, irreversible transformations. But here is a where transformation, less transformation. Where there is a transformation and there is no transformation. Where the gold itself is becoming many ornaments, yet remaining as gold only without any transformation. So it's not a contradiction now. That's why Krishna says, Maya tadamidam sarvam jagadam vyakta murtina mastani sarva bhutani. All beings are in me. In the very next sloka itself, nachamastani bhutani. There are no beings in me. Sir, just now you said there are all beings in me. He is contradicting himself right away. Because from the point of Brahman that I am, there are no beings in me. But if you look at a vyavaharika satyam, yes, all beings are in me only. So gold can say, there are no really ornaments in me. All I am only pure gold. Gold I was, gold I am, and gold I will be. But yet, all ornaments are in me. Look at my vibhuti, pasyam me yogavaishvam. Oh Arjuna, look at my glory. No beings in me, at the same time all beings are in me. That is my glory itself. It's called vivarta transformation. Vivarta means it's called parinama and vivarta. There are two types of transformations. Parinama is irreversible transformation, whereas vivarta is transformationless transformation. That means gold becoming into ornaments, mud becoming into pots, and iron becoming into tools. These are the Upanishadic examples provided to show that it is really, there is no transformation. Brahman remains as a Brahman and nothing is affected. And Brahman is nothing but consciousness. And I say, I am consciousness, Atma eva iti upasata. Therefore, I am everything too, where I am stand for not the body, mind and intellect, but I am stand for the consciousness that I am. That which is getting reflected as Chidabhasa. Follow now? So, while living in the body, while recognizing its only reflected consciousness, I had to recognize I am pure consciousness. Because it's a pure light. While being a moon, while shining in the night, I had to recognize that I am not the really luminosity. Luminosity doesn't belong to me. Luminosity, if the luminosity itself has, luminosity I am is nothing but coming from the sun that I am. Sunlight only. Follow? That should be understanding. So if I understand the basics of this philosophy itself, then everything that what is Yajnavalkya is saying, therefore, this to understand, and how do I get? You have to approach a teacher, because this is a science where what is real knowledge is being taught. What is avidya and what is avidya. All other things are also only avidya comes. Any other talk about it, no, you may be PhDs, and Narada had PhDs in 60 subjects. That's what he's saying. The Chandogya Upanishad, he goes to Sanat Kumara, say, what is that you know? He gives you a list of all things that he is mastered. And yet, he is not mastered. So all that is avidya only, because yesterday I told you, the more you know, the more ignorant only you are. It makes you humble. Whereas this knowledge, because it is this everything is nothing but Atma, is realizing that knowledge is everything is nothing but myself. So what would I gain by knowing this? All problems are solved. The problems comes only from duality. Problems come really is taking the duality as reality. Duality will still remain, but now I understand the reality is only my own glory. So, what is that I had to do is, as a result of this education, is start seeing myself everywhere as I am this, I am this, I am this. Yesterday, before we went, it says this knowledge becomes useful only after the class also, when I see myself everywhere. Therefore, the love for myself represents the love for everything else also. Follow now in this says the whole Gita, the teaching started with that love, where the husband says the one doesn't love his wife, or one doesn't love his wife, husband, what he loves is himself. But if I recognize myself is everything, then I love everything also. So Atmanastu kamaya sarvam idam priyam bhavati. For me only everything else is me. I only love myself, because that's unconditional love. Everything else is love that object or that person or whatever, as long as it brings happiness to me. So same wife or husband or whatever, I love her, I love him, because they bring happiness. If it's a pain in the neck, what happens? You know what happens in this country. That love disappears. Because what I love is Ananda only, happiness that I. That Ananda, once I recognize I am the whole thing itself, then I don't depend on anything other than myself for Anandam. That is the litmus test, I said. I don't depend on anything other than myself for my happiness. Because I am already full. There is nothing more you can give me to make me happy. The Bhagavan Rama and the Ramana Maharshi says, Apurnam. Apurnam is overflowing happiness. You know, those who are familiar with Swami Chinmayanji, we used to hang around him. A lot of people used to hang around him. As soon as he comes out of it, hang around. Because it was the bubbling happiness. To be around him it's like a overflowing happiness. Even if he doesn't have to talk, he says it makes so much of jokes and all that, it is overflowing, it's like that. It's a beautiful associations, but anyway, people don't leave him. That's why he has to go inside, because he has to do a lot of work also. And that is what essentially comes out of recognizing that I am the totality. So love automatically comes. It doesn't mean that he doesn't get angry. So I took, this is some instance, I took Swamiji Gurudev to Pittsburgh, to Harrisburg. In the Harrisburg temple, at that time the new temple was coming, and they invited him for. And all the people are there in the temple, and he was started teaching. And suddenly he started, in our Indian temples, all the kids are running here, kids are running there, kids are running all over the place and in between and all that. Swamiji stopped the lecture and started banging the parents left and right. And fellows say, why is Swamiji so angry with children? How can he be Swami if he's such an angry? He says, no. He's giving actually the other topic is not necessary right now. You need this lesson first. Because if you don't know, do you see this kind of things when you go to church? Kids running all over the place like that? Because Swami said, you are in discipline, that's why the children are behaving in discipline. The discipline has to come from you. You should know how to conduct, then you have to pass it on to the children, how to conduct, where, when they are. This is not a place for this kind of talk where children are children. But it's your responsibility to make sure. If you can't take care of the children, you take care outside, where they provide a navigation for them to spend. Because this is not a topic for the children can be interested, they get bored. So that was where anger is reflected back to you, but at the same time, after the talk, the whole thing changes again. Because it's just reflection of whatever that is required for this society. I remember we had I don't, maybe we are getting into it. Once I get into Swamiji's Gurudev's talks, it goes. But we had a lady who was accommodating Swamiji, and the fellow came. There is, I think, a Vishwa Hindu Parishad fellow. So at that time, I used to organize, there were not many, there was no mission here, everything else is there. Me and my wife distributing all over the place, brochures. And I used to ask other organizations to help me, and there is a Vishwa Hindu Parishad, and Swamiji is the one who started the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, one of the first. So Vishwa Hindu Parishad guy says, please can you help, and in terms of distribution, I says, no, we are Vishwa Hindu Parishad, we don't encourage particulars, all sorts of theory he gave me. So, and when Swamiji is here, this Vishwa Hindu Parishad fellow want to meet at Swamiji. So he says, Swamiji, what is my schedule? He says, Swamiji, this man wants to meet you. He's from Vishwa Hindu Parishad. He said, he looked at me, what about him? He says, Swamiji, this is what happened when I asked for it. Oh, I see. I'll give it to him. When he came, I thought Swamiji said, he blasted him. And after blasting, after blasting is over, this man got up and he had some problem with the leg. This was the Parishad guy. And he was limping. Suddenly Swamiji's whole thing changed and says, come here, what's the problem with the leg? And then he was recommending where he has to go to get leg repaired. Completely, whole change itself is changed also. The tone and everything else is. I mean, that's how the Mahatma, they reflect what is needed at the center. So I don't know why it came, all that, but anyway. So the essence of yesterday's talk is essentially, I had to do in order to know what is this. Vedanta is a pramana, a means of knowledge, because that is a pramana, means that which provides you the knowledge. And pramana means it alone is provides, not anything else. That's what we define what pramana means. Anadigata, abadita, arthavishayaka, jnanatvam pramanam. So that which cannot be gained by any other way, anadigata. Abadita means that which cannot be negated by any other way also. That is the real truth. A truth is defined, is not that someone confirmed or someone validated, that is not the validity of even science also. What is that? It cannot be negated by anything. Then only it is true. Then what exactly is the truth? That is a Vedantic definition. The truth is that which is real. Truth is real, is Trikala Abaditam Satyam. That which remains the same all 3 periods of time alone. Therefore it cannot change at any time for anybody's convenience. If that is a truth, then what is this whole universe? Universe is not really true, because this universe disappears when I go to dream state. It is negated by the dream experience, because I may be all full with a 5-course lunch, and sitting in the lazy boy chair, I am going to sleep, and then there I dream that I am in the forest starving for many years. Completely contradictory world compared to the waking world. So waking world is negated and I have a different experience. Both are negated when I go to deep sleep state. So this negation, baditam, implies, so baditam implies that this is rejected by that, that is rejected by this, therefore there is no satyam in anywhere. Trikala abhayita satyam is not applicable. So only thing that is real, and that points out by the Vedanta, is Brahman alone is satyam. That's called Brahma satyam. That's the first statement. Satyam is, it remains the same all the time. Nityatvam is a satyatvam. Not I experience, therefore it's real. No. Experienceability, transactability, perceptibility, usability, or whatever, all ability are not a proof for the validity of that for the trikalam. Only thing where it is, exact definition is that which remains the same. Now what remains the same? What remains the same is law of conservation. That remains, conservation is, it's conserved all the time, it remains the same. That's what I said, A plus B is equal to C plus B is equal to C is a chemical reaction, right? So what remains the same is law of conservation. The matter remains the same across the equation. That's what is chemical balance. Energy remains the same. It only transforms within one form of energy to other. And what really remains absolutely same, that Krishna gave the law of conservation. In the second chapter of Gita, it says, Nasato vidyate bhavo, nabhavo vidyate sataha. That which exists can never cease to exist. That which is non-existent can never come into existence. That's absolute law. And that existence alone is appearing in many. Therefore, all things that I see in this world is nothing but objects that I see are only nama-rupa only, the attributive knowledge only. The essence is that existence itself is appearing in many. Just as the gold appearing in many forms. That exists because everything is. Non-existent I cannot see. Existence also, pure existence I cannot see. What I can see is only name and a form. But in and through the name and the form, I had to see that which I cannot see. For that seeing only, Vedanta is a darshanam. Darshanam means it's a mirror for you to show this is what it is. And that is why it is a pramana. Therefore, for gain the knowledge, says Shrotavyaha, you have to listen to the scriptures teaching until this is crystal clear. And Mantavyaha, you have to make sure that there is no conflict in what you see and what you hear. Whatever the contradictions that you see is only apparent and not real. Follow? Now what apparent is, I don't know, at the Vyavaharika level I see, he is different, she is different. Just as a scientist I know everything is electron, protons and neutrons, but yet I can see garbage is garbage and food is food. So therefore no confusion here. There is no contradiction now. On the one side it is all same, on the same it is different. So different at a different level, but at the same time from understanding wise it is oneness. So I had to understand that I am the same everywhere. Everything is nothing but myself at the same time. He is different, she is different, he is different, everything. Your bank account is your bank account, my bank. There is no confusion. So Advaita, there is no contradiction. People think that Advaita contradicts them. The Advaitins contradict themselves. Everything is themselves, at the same time they try to fight among themselves. It's not that. So, if you understand this clearly, then the knowledge is crystal clear. I can play the game of life with this understanding beautifully without getting affected. So, remember in the Chandogya, we have the test, whether you are realized or not is a test in Chandogya. So, if you want to do, you can do that. What do you have to do? Get a red hot iron and then you touch it. If it burns, that means you are not realized. If it doesn't burn, that means you are realized. That's a red hot iron test. It's given there. I don't know if you know. For those who want to learn, there is a Sadvija, we took that in the Memorial Day camp. So what exactly it means? With that knowledge, when I contact the world, I will not get burned. That is the knowledge. I will not be affected by that. And with that, this is all background, because once you understand, then you know everything else. So we are now looking at the mantra 7, where in the mantra 6, he has emphasized idam sarvam yadayam atma. The whole thing is nothing but Atma, that I am. Once he realizes, then he gives you examples of the 3 examples for Srishti Sthiti Laya. So we discussed that yesterday, where in order to recognize this clearly, he is giving you now examples. Whenever the example is given, it's called drishtanta. Drishtanta means an example. It indicates something logical is involved. Just as, you know, when we say there is a smoke and I see fire, and every time I use that kind of anumana, I need an example. Example has to be pratyaksham. Pramana. This is just like I saw in the kitchen, wherever it used to be in olden days, there is no other electrical gas is not there. You used to have firewood, and wherever there is the wet firewood is burned, there is a smoke all over. So wherever there is a fire, there is always a smoke. So it is, remember, that is a one-way direction. Wherever there is a smoke, there has to be fire. Not wherever there is a fire, there is a smoke. Okay, that's called Vishaya Vyapti. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. But that knowledge comes by pratyaksha pramana, validation by the experiment, validity. So what are here is the validation is coming from the total, because I cannot validate the absolute truth because it's a one of a kind. And therefore, these examples have to be understood and applied to the degree that I can understand using a shastram as a means. So here we are looking at the 7, 8 and 9 are 3 examples, where it's taking the example of a drum, example of a shankha, and example of a veena to indicate that there is something samanyam and something visheshanam in everything. Because the problem is, in the self-realization, this is a problem. How do I apply this? This is where the problem is. In self-realization, this mixture is always there together. What's the mixture? Consciousness and the reflecting medium. Ahankara is, I am this. I cannot have just I am somewhere. I am somewhere is infinite. You cannot see it. You cannot know it. It is even unknowable. Because to know, you're already differentiating pramata, prameyam, and all that are there. So this is unknowable things through that. But I had to use this and think using that, using a viveka, to see what is that real and what is not. Nitya, anitya, vastu, viveka is required. What is eternal, what is ephemeral in this whatever I see. Just as I showed you, remember, I put my hand, you are seeing the hand, at the same time you are seeing the light only. The light plus hand together, what you are seeing. But hand is not really you are seeing, it's only reflected light from the hand. All that has to be included. But without the hand, you cannot see the light. So in the same way, I am looking at myself as I am. Who is looking at myself? Ego is only, mind only looking at, say, when I say I am not already total already. I cannot think of consciousness that I am pure. I am, with the mind only I have to see. So people read J. Krishnamurti books and all that. I don't know if you are all familiar with J. Krishnamurti. Right? What does he say? So you have to uncondition the mind. Who says that? Mind only says. How do you uncondition the mind? You can't ask him actually. If you undo, how you do uncondition the mind, he will give you a procedure. No, he can't give you a procedure. Then you are conditioning again. So what should you do? Observe your mind. If you read, observe your mind. So I was trying to do that. So observe your mind. Then ask you, who is observing my mind? It's the mind only. There is no somebody else to observe the mind. Okay, mind observe, before that everything gone. What observe? How long you observe? So, what is exactly conditioning and what is unconditioning? You get completely confused there when you're doing. So what exactly? Yes, he's right. You have to uncondition the mind. So how do you uncondition? You cannot ask him, because then the very question itself is you are reconditioning your mind. But we say no. You recondition the mind in such a way that you uncondition the mind. So how is that possible? I give you a simple example of, I may remember 4 miles of running is necessary to discover the 4 miles of running is not necessary. Okay. The fellow had a very thin necklace. His wife gave for his birthday or something. And he wanted to show off to his friend. He went all the way to 4 miles to show off and say, my wife gave me, she said it's beautiful and all that, and boasting himself. And this is, in America, the sign is very so thin, you cannot even see where it is properly. So he showed that and came back home after chit-chatting for another half an hour and all that. He came home and found out that he doesn't have a necklace anymore. So I said, what happened to my necklace? He said, I think I don't know if I gave it to my friend or something. He ran 4 miles. And there he says, hey, I might have left my necklace here. And he said, necklace, you are looking all away. It is getting folded in your own shirt. It is there. So he discovered the necklace. Now the question is, was that 4 miles running necessary for him to find the necklace? Because he never really lost. If you say it's necessary, it's not necessary. He never lost it. But if you say it's not necessary to run, see, he was having problems. He was worried what his wife will think, because he didn't know that he has it. So only when he went there, he found out that he has it. So that was necessary. So either answer is a problem. So the correct answer is 4 miles of running is necessary to discover the 4 miles of running is not necessary. So that is the truth. So reconditioning is necessary to discover that unconditioned mind is what is required. Unconditioned means detachments. Follow now where exactly. Vedanta is very specific, all this. So here, what is that being taught? There are 2 things always. You cannot separate it. And what are the 2 things? He is giving you example of 3 examples. One is when I am beating the drum, and there are 2 things. One is the common beating of the drum, okay, dum, 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 whatever. And in that there is a fluctuations in that. So it says, I cannot recognize the fluctuations unless I recognize the background drum noise. And other examples is exactly the same thing. Shanku is the same, Veena is also same, violin you can apply. So how do you apply to this? This because sayatha, just as, means just as this, now I have to apply to where? Consciousness is everywhere, but it is getting reflected. So when I am looking at myself as I am this is this. So every time I look at it, I should have that samanyam, which is that which is pervading as a background. Just as when I am seeing the fluctuations in the drum, I have the common factor which is there all the time as a background for me to recognize the higher up and down and up and down. Same way, whenever I see something, there are 2 things involved. One is there is, because if there is not, I cannot see. So there is something for me to see, that means there exists. So existence is expressed itself in that form there for me to see. So without the common existence, there cannot be any existence of any object. So samanyam is that which is common factor is, anytime I see something, there is the existence. Existence is me, I am that existence. Has to be understood. That is the samanyam. And also another samanyam is, I am able to see. How do you know it exists? I can see. Therefore I say it exists. I see, therefore it is. How do you see? Therefore, I am the subject seer and it's an object seen, and I gave you all the theory of how exactly perceptual knowledge, where the consciousness has to illumine the thought that rises in the mind and therefore engulfs the thought as that is this thought that I am seeing of an object out there. Therefore, consciousness that I am the subject, existence as this, as an object, first expressed as an object out there and as a thought in my mind, has to join together for me to be conscious of the existence of the object. All that is samanyam. Visheshanam is, this is a chair, that is a table, this is this lady, that is a man, this is my boss, that's my wife, this is my child. All the Visheshana are Visishta Chaitanyam. So in every Visishta Chaitanyam, there is a Samanya Chaitanyam. So if I want to apply this philosophy, these examples for my application is, I had to use this. Whenever I see always these two together. They cannot be existing any one. One is Samanya, one is Visheshanam. Visheshanam is the qualified. Qualifications belong to the objects. It can be persons, qualification, all that is objectified. And that which is Samanya, which is background, is pure existence, because of which also I am conscious of it. That is the Samanya. So that has to be nitidhyasitavyaha. Why was it? That has to be contemplated on all the time. So Krishna says, Ananyas chintayanto ma yajana paryupasate. Without any other thought, come to me. He's a so jealous God. I don't want to think about anything else other than me. So what is other than? Me is nothing but pure existent consciousness that I am, that pervades everything. First have that me as then play the game of life. With that, then the life becomes a beautiful sport. So what do I gain of it? You don't depend on anything other than yourself, for you're already happy. Therefore, there is no problems of it. This is only drama for entertainment. So it becomes Atma Rati and Atma Krida. So that is the essence. So with that, Samanya, because examples are more complicated. If you understand the basic of it, the examples become clear. So let's look at the 7. Sayatha dundubhehe, mantra 7. Hanyamanasya nabahyan sebdan seknuyat grahi anyamanasya na bhakyan sebdan seknuyat. When the drum is going up and down, when you are beating the drum and it's fluctuating with up and down, with all the fluctuations in the sounds, you cannot recognize it. Not drachnuya. It cannot be recognized that unless you recognize the average sound of the drum. So I cannot see the fluctuations, and I know what is the background noise also. That is essentially in the sayata. In the same way, whenever I see visishta, I had to see samanya. So I gave example about when you say all human beings or samanya. So visishta is these are Americans, these are Indians, these are visishta. All Indians, samanya. He is from Andhra, he is from Madras, he is from Tamil Nadu, he is Punjab. Those are visishta. So all are Andhras. So you see from Rayalaseema, he is from Telangana, guys who are making a lot of agitations, and the other guys. You can make visishta. And we love visishta. Oh, he's a Telugu guy. Oh, he's a Telugu guy. Forget about all Samanya, only this is Telugu means it can be Hindi, it can be. I had to tell one fun story. When I was a student in Pittsburgh, this may not be relevant. Because my wife told me once in a way you have to tell stories, otherwise people go to sleep because of your talk is so dry. So when at that time there was no Telugu Association, English, we are only few people there. So we have all the Indian students all get together, and also all Indians. There are only, even them, there is no Pittsburgh, there is no temple at that time. We used to go from Pittsburgh, I used to do in the University of Pittsburgh. We used to go to New York to Idlis, all the way. But we had some kind of get-together of all the Indians, and then one lady was talking to me in Hindi. Said, "Madam, I don't know Hindi." "You are Indian? You don't know Hindi?" So she blasted me left and right for not knowing Hindi. What can I do? I managed not to learn Hindi even though I stayed in Kanpur for 2 years. But anyway, I was in the IIT where only I know Namak and Chamacha and those important things. And afterwards, few minutes ago, that kid comes and he was talking in English. The kid was talking to her in English. Says, "Why is he talking in English to you?" I told her. Because I don't use these chances. "Oh, he doesn't know Hindi." He's Indian and you are Indian mother and you didn't know how to teach Hindi. So I had to give her back. But anyway, but when the common factor is, once I understand the common factor, Visheshana also automatically comes. Or if I am doing the Visheshana, that's what I do all the time. Because I love this, I don't like this, all these likes and dislikes are what? To the Visheshanas only. Visheshana means that which is qualified. For that, I should see Samanya first and then Visheshana. That's why Krishna says, "I am there in everyone's heart." That is Samanya. Because he is everyone. It's not Antaryamin. Bhagavan Ramanuja emphasizes that as Antar means he pervades as the very essence. Once I recognize the Samanya, that Visheshana, he is different, he is different. This fellow may be a rotten guy, a terrorist guy, and that fellow may be other guy, sadhu. But God is there in that also, remember. So, I should have a Samanya at the same time Vishesha. But when you are dealing with Vishesha, you have to do in the Visheshana only part at that part, because healing also is Visheshana. Because you discriminate what is garbage and what is food. Just because you have normal, Samanya is everything is electron, protons, neutrons. At the same time, where you need to discriminate, you have to discriminate. The food doesn't mean that just because you are electron, proton, you are not going to eat garbage. So where the discrimination required for transaction purposes, you have to do it. You cannot be, just because I am a Chinmaya mission or I attended Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, I cannot be a doormat for everybody to step on me. Where I had to play the game, but that game has to be played with the recognition of Samanya also. Then compassion comes. You compassionately correct the people also, where it has to be corrected. Okay, that's important. In these examples here, that's exactly what Yajnavalkya is teaching his wife Maitreyi. So that's about Dunduvehi. So the next one is the Shankha, Sloka 8. Sayatha Shankasya Vayamanasya Nabahyam Shabdan Shaknuyat Grahanaya Sankasyatu Grahanena Sankadvasya Va Shabdo Gruhita. So Sayata, just as, so Sankasya Mayamanasya, Sanka is you are blowing, not beating the Sanka, so you are blowing the Sanka. So when you are doing in the Sanka ups and downs in that, the Arohana, Avarohana, all the ups and downs in the high pitches and all that, that cannot be grasped unless you grasp the basic sound of the Sanka. Nabakyam Shabda Nashaknuyat. The higher and upper cannot be grasped if for Grahanaya, Sankasyatu Grahanena, Sankadvasya Svasabdo Grahita, where one has to pick up the basic sound of the Shankha to appreciate the ups and downs of the voice of the Shankha. And the last one, similar example. Sayatha Veenayai Veena Vajyamanayai Nabahyan Shabdan Shaknuyat Grahanaya Veenayai tu Grahanena Veena Bhajasyava Shabdo Grihitaha. So just as the Venas, in that where you are doing all these different the frequencies of that, whatever, the Veena Vadyam, and you cannot grasp the higher pitches and lower pitches until you have the background pitch also. That you have to learn. So implication is sayatha in all these things, just as. So just as this, you have to apply it, this example, to what you do in your transactional world. So whenever I am transacting, which is I cannot but transact when I am living in the world. So this is, as long as I have body, mind and intellect, I had to live in the world. I had to keep the body to be alive. So all those things can go on in the life, yet I should recognize in and through what I am transacting with, I see that which is non-transactable, at the same time ever present, that consciousness existence that is there, because of which everything is there, without which I cannot see. That becomes a knowledge. Okay? So with that, it's called sthiti. That means existence aspect of Srishti, Sthiti, Laya are being explained in these examples. So we are talking about the sthiti aspect. Now he is going to talk about the Srishti examples. Then he is going to talk about Laya example. These are the things that Yajnavalkya is describing, using examples to illustrate the problem. Okay? So using now, we know that there are always two things. So for our sadhana, these are very important slokas to apply this for our own sadhana. From now on, after the camp is over, or from now on, I have to have the samanya knowledge as I am transacting with the Visheshna knowledge. Then only the purpose of the camp also is fulfilled. Otherwise, back and same thing happen. Nothing will happen. So, what is samanya? The consciousness existence that is all pervading Brahman is always there. It is adhishthanam. Adhishthanam means that which supports. That's how the definition of Brahman is. Yadova imani bhutani jayante, yena jatani jivanti, yat prayam tabhisham vishanti, tad vijnasasva, tad brahmeti. By which the whole universe came, by which it is sustained. Sustained means it is the material cause. It is material from which it came, therefore it is there in the effects. Go from gold, ornaments came, and gold is there in every ornament. Therefore, same way, samanya is there in everything there that I see, but I cannot perceive that samanya. It's not an object for me to perceive. I cannot infer by logically, because naisha tarke namatirapane. Yes, the Upanishad says it cannot be logically reduced, because the logic itself depends upon the pratyaksha pramana as a validation. Therefore, Shastra alone is pramana for this. And for that, shrotavya, mantavya. If I cannot keep this knowledge all the time, because that's what Yajnavalkya's problem also, even though he is a jnananishta, he is leaving the house, right? But most of us, we cannot leave the house. And people won't let us leave also. Even if you want to leave, they won't let us leave also. So what do? So whenever there is an occasion to keep this knowledge back to you, use that as a means to reinforce the knowledge. Okay? That is the only way we don't forget this, because this is the real knowledge. You remember I went through yesterday what is vidya and avidya. Everything else is avidya. This is the real knowledge only, because by gaining this, you know everything. By gaining other one, you don't know anything. That's what happens, right? Therefore, this is the real vidya. And therefore, this is the essence of life itself. Kulam pavitram janani krutartha visvambara punyavate chatena. The one who has realized the whole life, whole kulam itself is glorified. Kulam pavitram janani kruthartha. The mother itself is blessed by having a son or daughter who has realized this truth. That is the glory of this knowledge. And this is what is, we are blessed by that kind of rishis handing over this kind of knowledge, and the mission that provides where it can be made crystal clear, because we don't know Sanskrit that much. And if we try to say, what is this, what is the drum example, what is that, in the what way this is to do with the consciousness? No connections at all. Even though it says so yatha, just as what? The drum, what has that to do with the drum? So that's why we have to understand clearly what exactly is Samanyam and what is Visheshanam that is being pointed out. And the commentators have given us that so that we can understand it clearly. So with that, we have the Yajnavalkya talks about the Srishti, the Sthiti. So, how do we define Brahman? Brahman cannot be defined by any other way, because any definition cannot reach there. So, how does still there are books and books of defining Brahman, right? So, in the Brahma Sutra, it starts with Athato Brahma Jigyasa. That's how it starts. The Brahma first sutra is Athato Brahma Jigyasa. That's the first sutra. That means, then, therefore, inquire into Brahman. What is then and what is therefore? Pages and pages of commentaries are there, Bhashyas. So, according to Shankara, say therefore means thereafter inquire. So, thereafter means whereafter, that question will come. Whereafter means after you have gained this fourfold qualifications, then inquire. What are the four qualifications? You need essentially the Vairagyam, the Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampatti and Mumutshutvam. And those are required, then inquire. Then what is that inquire? Inquire about Brahman. And what is that Brahman? He has to define then Brahman. Janmat Jasya Yataha, the next sutra. That Brahman which cannot be defined, that I have to inquire in, what is that? It is that because of which the whole universe came, by which it is sustained, into which it goes back. That is Brahman. That's called Tatastha Lakshanam. These are Tatastha Lakshanam. Indicatory definitions of Brahman. Because Brahman point, there is no creation. At the same time, I am in the creation. So therefore, using the very creation as a means for me to recognize that which is not created anywhere, that is the Adhishtanam, has to be recognized. That's what is the Samanya aspect of it. And incidentally, when you say, Srotavyaha, Mantavyaha, Nididhyasitavyaha, the Nididhyasana is required for those who do not have those qualifications completely. Why Nididhyasana? Some people, Shravanam itself enough. Thank you, sir. I have done. You have done your job and I know. No need, no further this one needed. So in the Kena Upanishad there is a statement, the student will scream out, he say, I understood what you are saying. At the same time, he thought maybe the teacher may not understand what I said. Because he says he's not understanding as something to understand an object. At the same time, I don't understand it. Then at the same time, he says, that's not also true. I understood it. What is this? I understand, I don't understand. This is all confusion. You say, it's not something to understand as this is Brahman. So that's why scripture says, Brahmavit Brahmaiva Bhavati. It's a statement of scripture. Brahmavit Brahma, knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. Knower of potato doesn't become a potato, unless he's just coach potato. So, knower of anything cannot become that, but here is a statement, knower of Brahman becomes Brahman only because that Brahman that I know is I am. Aham Brahmasmi is the knowledge there. Therefore, he becomes Brahman. And at that time, then how does he act afterwards? A lot of things are confusion of in the literature. How does a jnani act? That's like Arjuna also had the same problem. This sita prajnasya ka bhasha. What is the language? That means how does he communicate? How does he transact to the world? And Krishna gave a condensed message of what exactly jnanam is. What? Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atman eva atmana tushtaha. Sita prajna is what? Atmani eva atmana tushtaha. He is reveling in himself by himself. It's not that he's sitting in one corner always, avoid everybody else and sitting and reveling in himself. That's not what he's doing. He sees himself everywhere. Remember? That's what the Upanishad is telling now. He himself is everywhere, therefore he is reveling in everything, and everything is nothing but his own revelation only. So every enjoyment, every being is enjoyed is nothing but my enjoyment only, because I am there in that. That is the knowledge. Because we are only looking from the understanding point. So that has to be recognized. So here the Srishti aspect of being. So Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, all aspects of it. Oh, I was talking about Nididhyasana. Let me please, I keep shifting. So Nididhyasana is required when my mind, all those qualifications, particularly the Shat Sampatti, the sixfold, Shama, Dhamma, Yatara, all those things are there. Package of 6. That is not complete. So, scripture is telling you, you listen to the scriptures after you have it. So, should I listen now? I don't know whether I have it or not. That's a question a student can ask. Because Adhato Brahma Jigyasa, after acquiring those qualifications, then inquire into the nature of Brahman. Do I have those qualifications or not? I have to wait until that qualifications to get. If you are going to wait, you will be waiting forever. I can tell you that. So what is that I know whether I am ready or not? If you can attend the Memorial Day camp, that means you have it. Enough to attend. Why? Because you are able to sit here and listen to this guy talking continuously without stop for hour and hour, when you are waiting for when is he going to stop so that I can have my tea. When you are thinking, says that patience tells you that you have requisite qualifications enough to listen. And if you are paying attention to it, then you have it. If you are only sitting and says thinking about coffee there rather than sitting here, then you are restless and looking at the time, you watch every time. So the fact that you are able to sit, I don't know whether you are able to sit comfortably, quietly, and able to means that itself tells that you have enough of that requirements to listen to this teaching. Now, whether that's enough to realize or not, when you go out of the class, you know. Because if this knowledge doesn't stay with you and you are back to good, everything else, but not you can be good also. At the same time, you forget the samanya in the visishta. That means the chitta suddhi is not complete. You follow? When in nididhyasana is coming. So what should I do? Nothing. Keep memorizing, remembering this knowledge all the time to the degree that you can. The more you do it, the more it sinks into you as your own nature. So how do you know it is sinking into me? So I told you already, the very litmus test is, there are 2 litmus tests. Number 1, whether you are realized or not. The best test is whether your happiness depends other than you. You are looking for something else for your happiness, then that means you are not understood completely. Or understanding is not sinking. Why that happens? Because there are remnant raga dveshas. There are still remnant raga dveshas are there, which comes up and covers this knowledge, even though I understood. So when I'm transacting the world, I get angry because people are not meeting my expectations. That's what we expect. All our expectations, we all expect everybody should behave according to our expectations. Wife doesn't behave the way I expect her to behave. Husband doesn't behave the way I expect her to behave. Children don't behave the way I expect them to behave. And boss doesn't behave the way I expect him to behave. Everyone is not meeting my expectations. What should I do? Simple. Pull down your expectations down all the way. that answers the question. Because my problem is, are you meeting their expectations? That I don't know. If you ask them, they will tell you are never. You are not meeting their expectations also. So, nobody meets anybody's expectations. What I need to do is look at the samanya that pervades everything and viseshanize that is a property of that visishta which is different from that. You cannot expect ring look like a bangle, even though people may wear it or something, as everybody has earrings, whether it's a bangle or a neck. But ring is a ring and a bangle is a bangle. Don't expect something that is different from its nature there. So what should I do? That is the very glory of the beauty of creation itself. So we are going to go to that sloka. I know everybody is looking for time, but this is once you understand the theory of it, then you say application, because this is our common problem. As soon as you go out of it, the whole thing goes away. Why? It is sinking. So what do I have to do? The more to bring it back. So what is that Listmer test I gave you? You cannot depend, any dependence other than yourself for happiness is a test that you have not realized. Then what is how is this established where I always see only samanya and not visishta? Because of the remnant raga dveshas, this is always there. Remember, mind has to be purified. If you know a little bit of thermodynamics, mind can never be purified 100%. That's what thermodynamics says. I cannot give 100% gold anytime. I'll have 99.999. I can keep on 99 there. There is no 100%. Thermodynamically, it's impossible. Same way, mind also. Mind cannot be purified 100%, even though that's what is required. So what should happen? Continue nitidhyasana all the way. How long? Throughout the life. How do I do nitidhyasana? Listening to the scriptures, hearing about the scriptures, talking about the scriptures. And if anybody gives you party, go there and talk about this also. They may stop inviting you. That's what happened to us also. Anybody asks, how are you? And also pretty soon Vedanta comes. Everybody was running away from there. And people start inviting us. Why? This guy only talks only this. Because that's all you are. Remember, nidhyasitavyaha, that's what I learned. Therefore, that's what I teach. So that becomes where you keep thinking all the time. So because that's why Yajnavalkya was also having too many parties. He said, this is not possible. Let me go out somewhere where there's no parties anywhere so that I can devote myself. If it is possible, you do it. Otherwise, wherever you are, because it's everywhere. Samanyam is everywhere. So try to cultivate looking at this as the truth itself wherever you are. It is difficult but not impossible, as Krishna says. Chanchalam hi manah Krishna pramad balavadradam tasya nigraham kanve vayoro sudushkana. It's very impossible to control the mind. Says, when somebody says impossible, what can you argue with him? Say, Arjuna, you are right. But it can be done. So Krishna diplomatically says, abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena chakas. By proper abhyasa and vairagya. That is real vairagya. Vairagya is giving up the visishta and looking at the samanya. Okay? So with that, we will come back after this tea is over, and we will look at the example where it's talking about Srishti and The other one, Laya, very examples, 2 examples. Those are very deep examples and very well quoted, and we have to do that also, slowly. So with this, we'll do Purnamada now. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari